Although every job has its downside, comedy is probably one of the world's most underrated jobs. These comedians come on stage without knowing their audience's mood or state of mind, but still try to crack them up. Do comedians get heckled by their fans? How do comedians manage hecklers? This video is going to run us through moments that comedians get heckled. Jim Gaffigan gets attacked by an offended Christian on radio show. Almost every comedian in the comedy business has a setback or a major but, except for a few who have made people laugh and remain almost clean. One of the popular names on the clean list of comedians currently out there should be Jim Gaffigan. Jim Gaffigan is one of the rare comedians who has managed to be thoroughly awesome without dropping curse words at every interval. I don't have any issue with comics who go either route. However, the Christian caller who came at Jim during his radio interview is almost likely the most easily offended person in the world. The caller's main point was that mentioning or joking about politics or religion is awful and inappropriate. Probably she has never heard other comedians do stand-up? Yeah, there's the issue about context being topical, freedom of speech and all. The caller naturally felt Jim using religion as the basis of his comedy for any reason was highly offensive. She went as far as demanding free tickets to Jim's show as an apology. However, Jim maintained his cool and gave her a taste of her meal. He said to her, "Why would you want to come and see a sinner like me?" The most interesting part about the whole saga was that Jim is also a proud Catholic comedian. He never made his religion a secret in a world where many comedians are atheists who mock religion relentlessly. KK heckles Kevin Hart via Instagram. The introduction of technology and social media platforms has transformed comedy into a mobile business, compared to the good old days where comedians only give stage performances. Hecklers will have to come at the comedian when they are on stage. From the comfort of his home, a heckler who goes by the name KK got a piece of his cake for daring to give some questionable relationship advice to comedian Kevin Hart, probably for stunts or a quest for fame. This Instagram user who goes by the name KK thought getting personal with Kevin Hart and warning the celebrity comedian about his fiancée, Aniko Parrish's conceived ulterior motive, was a good idea. Unfortunately for him, he came at Kevin Hart, who took the passive-aggressive advice about as well as you'd expect. The comedian decided not to let that slide. He went ahead to rail into KK with a bag full of insults that made headlines and stormed the entire internet for days. Of course, it was an angry Kevin Hart, a comedian who could be unpredictable and verbal. We all knew something like that could happen. Kevin Hart informed his so-called fan that her ugly old lady hands looked like tree bark. If KK did it for fame and attention, then he certainly got what he wanted. But if he did it to mock Kevin, then he stepped on a snake's tail. Wannabe comedian gets heckled by other comedians via Twitter. In 2013, a high-profile Australian sports agent, Ricky Nixon, was suspended by the AFL Players Association for allegedly having an inappropriate relationship with a 17-year-old girl. Honestly, I think the online attack on Ricky was more personal than usual. He earlier made it known to the public that he was giving football a break and going into the world of comedy, so he had it coming. Let's quickly go through the series of disgrace and roasting Ricky received as a welcome party into the comedy industry via Twitter. At Tommy Little on Twitter saying, "Ricky Nixon is thinking about taking up comedy. The only downside is that his girlfriends won't be old enough to be allowed into the gigs." Another tweet came from at Will Anderson, where he said, "Ricky Nixon is going to do stand-up. This makes me feel much better about my plans to hang with schoolgirls dressed only in my undies." A lot of comedians and fans attacked Ricky for his ambition of being a comedian. His career as a comedian also got murdered before it was even born. The next video is a table turnaround incident. Don't go anywhere. A heckler gets dismantled by Hannibal Buress. The popular comedian Hannibal Buress directly came at a drunken heckler. Hannibal aggressively got involved with the drunk in the crowd, shouting at him by thoroughly deflating the man. He then proceeded to pat himself on the back for his career achievement and brilliantly mocked the heckler for his pointless behavior. Hannibal utterly destroyed the heckler with the style and finesse of a true professional comedian. The most interesting part about his speech was when Hannibal labeled the heckler as a social terrorist with an insane need for attention. He said the heckler was not satisfied with ruining one or two people's nights. He also aimed at ruining 1,100 people's night. The surprisingly apologetic heckler. This only made it to this list because we are talking about comedians and hecklers, but it's probably one of those heckle moments that end with a handshake. It is nothing but a memorable incident while President Obama was in office, and still a frequent subject of discussion for anyone who was opportune to stand in front of a mic. A comedian named Erin Jackson was at Washington, D.C. while she was doing her thing when she casually mentioned an adorable swing set which Obama had installed for his children. It was at that moment that someone who was likely not the biggest fan of Obama shouted out, "That's my tax money." Instead of roasting the man, the comedian maintained her cool and remained civil. She informed the heckler that the Obamas actually paid for the swing set themselves. The most amazing part about the whole incident was the part where the heckler apologized. Interactions like this that don't go wild almost never happen. A heckler gets roasted by Richard Herring mercilessly. The best comedians have everything under control despite the tireless attempt from the crowd to make him lose control. Richard was performing when a heckler tried everything possible to get him by shouting random nonsense at comedian Richard Herring. However, the man's pointless attempts to ruin everyone's night were shut down repeatedly by the professionalism Richard maintained. Richard went on to troll the heckler. He went as far as daring the heckler to continue by allowing moments of silence for the heckler to contribute further brain vomit to the show. Later in the show, Richard allowed the heckler to tell his jokes. As the heckler began, Richard then switched the cards and heckled him back. Unfortunately, the situation eventually went completely wild. The heckler went livid, started cursing, and the heckler was escorted out. Zach Galifianakis incredibly confronted a heckler. Zach Galifianakis came to the industry with a unique brand of comedy. He has managed to maintain a beautiful, polite, and yet direct kind of comedy. So anyone who comes for his head in any show pretty much deserves the public humiliation that will certainly follow. With that said, this situation is a great example of Zach at his best, turning a heckle situation into a hilariously awesome time for everyone. In stage performance, a woman got on Zach's nerves as she was guilty of facing away from him during a show and talking on her phone. Zach surprisingly invited her up on stage and proceeded to ask her clunky questions, which only hammered home his incredible ability to turn an awkward encounter into something very memorable. The young woman, who clearly wanted attention, got it. It will forever go down in the fans' minds as one of the best heckle conflicts that turned out to be entertaining. Joan Rivers goes to war over a deaf joke. The late comedian Joan Rivers was popularly known for her amazing talent. She is also well known for being the last comedian on earth you wanted to heckle. Nevertheless, Joan made a Helen Keller deaf joke on the stage at Wisconsin, and an offended man in the crowd began heckling her. The heckler's reason was alleged that he had a deaf son and found the joke to be in bad taste. In turn, Joan responded by revealing to the heckler that her mother was deaf as well, so she knew what it was like to have a loved one that was physically challenged. Oh, you stupid ass. Let me tell you what comedy is about. Comedy is to make everybody laugh at everything and deal with things, you idiot. One thing the audience doesn't know is, every comedian you see on stage trying to make the crowd laugh has a bad story and their problem to deal with. They are trained to come out of any situation with funny words. Personally, I will advise you not to go at any comedian because you might be at the receiving end when the tables get turned. Thanks for watching this video. Kindly hit the like button and remember to subscribe to our channel to get more of our amazing content. Also, feel free to tell us what you think about this video in the comments section below.